Welcome, everyone. My name is John, and I'm here with the Richmond Housing and Human Rights Coalition, a grassroots organization. We'll tell you a little bit more about ourselves here in a minute, but I wanted to welcome and express my sincere gratitude for everyone in this room. It's important for the community to come together around some of these key issues that are affecting us here in Richmond. So I wanted to point a few things out here. We have a sign-in sheet, if you have, and we can maybe pass it around during the presentation too if you didn't get a chance to sign up. But just as a way for us, this is just if you want to stay in touch, if you want to get involved with our work, just go ahead and sign in there with that sign-in sheet. We also have some cool materials here. There's a little zine, a little booklet that's around education that a student put together. It's really beautiful, and it's a good way for us to. So take one, take a couple, give it to a friend, and we have a flyer. Also, I want to point out. There's a flyer that states when we meet every other Saturday, second and fourth. Is that right? Yeah. So the second and the fourth Saturday of every month, we have just a regular community meeting at the Grassroots Center on East Main. That's address is what? What is
819 East Main Street.
819 East Main Street, and that's just another way for folks to get together and share stories and talk about kind of what they think we need to do to kind of make this community a better place, to build community, and to take on some of the issues that I know are long-standing issues that folks have struggled around. So anyway, make sure you grab a flyer there. We're also hoping that this is going to be the start of kind of a series of just educational forums with different topics that might help folks get better educated on everything from the history of the Human Rights Commission. We're going to hear from Bob Hunter here at the end of the evening. There's other topics that we're going to take up, maybe around healthcare, different things like that. So now look. I like to start a meeting, or we like to start meetings here with a song, or at least I do. I'm not going to speak for everybody. But this is a good way for us to kind of get together and join our voices together. And I figured I'd pick one that I think most folks know. So if you join me in singing this song, we're coming out of the winter and we're getting into the spring, and the daylights are staying longer, and so I'm going to sing this little item on it. So. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Well, what other verse y'all like? Y'all know this, right? Did you learn it maybe even in school?
I didn't.
What you got in you? Hide it under a bushel. No. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, hide it under a bushel. No. I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. What you got in you? Okay, all right, we're going to keep it a little secular, but that's okay. Some of us, that's going to be a part of our strength. I'm going to say it again.
We grew up in Sundays.
Yeah, that's all right, that's all right. Okay.
Let it shine till Jesus comes.
Let it shine till Jesus comes. I'm going to let it shine. Oh, let it shine till Jesus comes. I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine till Jesus comes. Well, light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, I can't hear you. This little light of mine, what's that? I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you. All right, so now, thank you so much. We're going to bring up Jimmy and Erica just to tell you a little bit about the Richmond Housing and Human Rights Coalition. And then after that, we're going to hear from Kelly Cruz Nicholson, who's going to give us an education on tenants' rights. And then we're going to hear from Morgan Maley from East Central Indiana Legal Aid to talk to us about some of the resources, legal resources, the legislative kind of landscape, right, and all that kind of stuff. So here's the thing, and I'm going to give up the mic after this, is just that, like, we don't know everything. This community here doesn't know everything, right? We don't know everything, but together, no one person knows everything, but together we know a lot, right? And that's a principle that our organization operates on. And so it's really good to bring folks together and compare notes so that we can kind of understand. Can't deal with the problem until you understand. So by that, I'm going to hand it over to Jimmy and Eric.
Hi, folks. If I may begin, my name is Jimmy. I'm a student at Rillum, but I've been in Richmond my entire life. We started the Richmond Housing and Human Rights Coalition last October, actually. What happened is we decided to hold a public forum to talk about the state of housing in Richmond. It was attended by many folks from many different backgrounds, but a lot of tenants or a lot of folks with a history of dispossession in housing, homelessness. I myself was homeless for a couple of years, and what we found is folks had a lot to say. There's a lot going on in this community that, under the purview of what is allowed for tenants to do and what is allowed for landlords to do, is against the law, right? And this is, folks, I mean, if you grew up in Richmond, you already have an idea, right? Landlords who give one-day eviction notices, appliances that aren't repaired even if the lease suggests they should be. I had somebody close to me who was sexually solicited by a landlord. Things like this happen. So kind of the purpose of today is for folks to understand within the purview of law, what is the tenant allowed to do and what is the landlord allowed to do? And if there's any violations of that, how can we hold folks accountable, right? So that's the basic gist of this event, but for the Richmond Housing and Human Rights Coalition in general, we're a nonpartisan group, we're very issue-based, right? There are folks who suffer in the state of housing in Richmond. We want less suffering. That's the principle, right? And we're not a not-for-profit organization. We're very grassroots. So we're not in the service sector per se. What we want to do is help provide tenants and other folks who have been dispossessed in housing a voice. That's what our group is about, a voice. Mutual aid. Putting our heads together to figure out how we can help each other in whatever way possible with what we have. And when you come together, you learn to find out. We have a lot, actually. Just us alone, we have a lot. So I'm going to hand it over to Erica here, but that's the gist of it, and I really appreciate y'all coming today.
I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name is Erica, and I'm one of the members of the Housing and Human Rights Coalition here in Richmond, Indiana. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here tonight and showing out for the city of Richmond. And we all know what housing is, but human rights, they're not granted by any state, they're not granted by any political party. Your human rights are inherent regardless of sex, gender, nationality, color, language, any other type of status. There's a Universal Declaration of Human Rights that's adopted by the UN General Assembly. It was the first legal document to set out the fundamental human rights to be universally protected. This document was 76 years old this past December. Our city defunded our local Human Rights Commission in 2010. The ordinance establishing this commission have not been repealed. And if you guys stick around later on in the presentation, you guys will get to learn more about that commission. And again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight.
So I'll hand it over here to Kelly.
I'm Kelly Nicholson, and I feel much more comfortable just sitting down on your eye level and talking to you instead of walking back and forth. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Richmond. I've lived here my entire life. I'm a jack of all trades, I guess you could say. I was on Richmond City Council for 15 years. I've done community service work for 26 plus years now. I volunteer for a lot of different things. One thing that I do though, and I'm just going to say this, one thing that I like to do is I like to provide information to people, okay? I want people to have information because, let's be honest, information is power, all right? And a lot of times what I've seen in our community is not a lot of power for folks that are maybe living in subsidized housing or, rental situations. I've seen it all. Trust me, I've seen it all. Everyone talks to me and they're like, well, what do you know? What do you know about this? You're not a landlord. As a matter of fact, I am a landlord, and I hold myself to a certain standard as a landlord. Do my tenants do things wrong? Yep. Have I had bad tenants before? Yep. But you know what? I hold myself to a certain standard so that I don't have people going, Kelly, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Or I don't have to say to my tenants, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I let everyone know what my expectations are, what the state rules are, all of that before I rent to anyone, okay? A lot of people do not have that privilege. They do not have that privilege. And I have, believe me, when I say I've seen it all, I've literally seen it all. From the best landlords and the best places to live to the very worst, and some of the properties that I've just been like, really? And people who say, but what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? So one reason they asked me to come and speak to you guys this evening is because, like I said, education is power. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what, and this isn't just about us tenants, it's about landlords too. What are your rights as a tenant? What is your responsibility as a tenant? What is your right as a landlord? What's your responsibility as a landlord? So first of all, how many people know how to find the Indiana State Code Title 32, Article 31? 1, 2, 3, 4. What's that? You can, yeah. But with me asking how many people can actually find it, that's one question that I ask people all the time. And I will tell you what, if I hadn't researched it a few years ago, I put together a landlord-tenant rights workshop. I researched all of it. That's how I know how to find it, okay? You go in there, you look at that state code, it spells out exactly what the rights and responsibilities are for everyone. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Something else I'm going to suggest to you guys is called the Renting in Indiana Handbook. It's on YouTube, okay? A lot of this information is easily accessible. However, if you don't have internet or you don't have the ability to get Wi-Fi, you're not going to get that information, right? A lot of information, this is something I have an issue about in our community, a lot of information goes out that people don't get, okay? And they're like, well, I don't understand. We put it on social media. Not everybody has social media. Not everybody can walk 5 blocks to somewhere where they can get free Wi-Fi just to access information. So how are we getting information out there? So those are two things that you can go to the state website, and it's the Indiana State Code Title 32, Article 31, all right? You can go on YouTube. and just Google renting in Indiana handbook. Talks about everything. Those are two really good guides. But under the Indiana law, a written or an oral agreement does exist. Or if payment is accepted as rent, landlords and tenants then have rights and responsibilities under the Indiana code that they have to follow. So basically what it's saying is, if you have a written lease, great. I've seen people who have detailed lease. We have a detailed lease. This is it. Please sign it, keep a copy, right? And we keep a copy. I've seen people who have done oral agreements. I'll let you move in for 50 bucks. Okay? And then people are like, really? No background check, no nothing? Nope, $50, move in. Okay? And here's the thing. If there's no documentation, what do you think's going on? It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm a weird one. I'm a pencil and paper type of gal. I'm old school, right? I write everything down. I know. I write everything. I'm Bernie Sanders. There you go. I write everything down. I copy everything. I keep everything in a folder. Every receipt for everything I've ever bought is kept in an envelope, right? And the thing is once those rights are established for a rental property, those rights it cannot be waived, regardless, listen to what I'm saying, regardless of what the rental agreement states. Once you enter that agreement, okay, that is it. I got that straight out of our state code, okay? Landlords in Indiana they cannot legally rent property unless it meets basic health and safety requirements. Basic human needs, right? Basic human needs. This is an issue for some properties in our community, period, okay? A lot of them don't fit those needs, but they rent them anyway, okay? I don't have any control over that. I only have control over what we rent, right? I don't have any control over that, but I am going to let you know what's legal, what's not. What are some of the requirements that an apartment or a house needs to have? Heating, number one. Hot water, smoke detectors, okay? They don't even have to be carbon monoxide detectors. A lot of people are like, well, I have to have that too. Smoke detectors is what it lists. Smoke detectors, hot water, and heat. All right. Now, once the heat is, if the heat is up to code, everything is good to go, right? As a renter, if it is in your lease for you to provide the utilities, then at that point it's your responsibility to make sure that heat stays on. Okay? You make sure that heat stays on. If the property does not provide the legal required items, a tenant has the right to call the code enforcement team and file a complaint for unsafe living conditions. Now, a lot of people will get angry about that. You know, oh, you're just telling them they go just file complaints on me. That's not what I said. I said if these legal requirements are not met, then they have a right to file a complaint. Okay? And the code enforcement office is located in the city building. And if anybody needs a number after work, let me know. I'll give it to you. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. All right? You don't have a phone? You walk to the city building. You don't want to walk, it's raining, it's cold, you have a bus pass. You know, what can you do? That responsibility then is on you. If you have an issue, the responsibility is on you to do this legally, okay? Do it legally, guys. Arguing with your landlord and tearing stuff up does nobody any good, okay? There are things that you can do. If you're not satisfied with the results that you get, if you contact the code enforcement, then you can go a different avenue. You can talk to your city officials. You talk to your county officials, all right? Take the proper steps first, because I'm going to tell you what I have found in my experience. People want to jump over steps. They don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to do that. That's a lot of work. There's no documentation. It didn't happen. And honestly, as a landlord, I could say my tenants did it. I could go in there and be like, oh, that hole in the wall, they did that. And know good and well the hole was there before I started, right? Documentation. Renters, all right, tenants, what are your rights? What are your responsibilities? Landlords, of course, must perform necessary repairs in a timely manner. That's 2 weeks. Here's the thing. Written request. How many people have had a problem with a landlord and you just tell them and then complain when it's not taken care of? Written request. Write it down. I don't care what you write it down on. Write it down. Give it to your landlord. Keep a copy for yourself. Because if you get called to go to court, I guarantee you, your landlord is going to have all that material. And if you walk in there with nothing, what leg do you have to stand on? Does that make sense? Okay. So, and I say this for everybody, always write, submit your request, make a copy, know where it's at. Okay? Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of people don't write down their request, and there are some landlords out there who count on that. Trust me. There are good landlords and there are dirty landlords. They count on you not wanting to do all the legwork, right? Like I told you, I am a pen and pencil girl. I will save a text message from 1839. Don't tell me I was wrong. I will pull it up, right? In a minute, I will pull it up. So, knowing that you have all of this information for yourself, okay? You know that you've got this, and it supports anything that you may have to come up against. Your responsibilities as a tenant, keep the living unit free of hazards and garbage, okay? Simple.
Please.
All right, take your trash out, okay? Dump your garbage out.
Amen.
Keep it, well, you know, and that's tough. It's tough because you know what, we have a lot of people, and honestly, we have a lot of people, landlords who don't necessarily care that there's trash and garbage everywhere. You know, I will complain. I'm like, I rent my unit for such and such and such and such, and I suggest you come over and get your stuff cleaned up because you're making my place look bad.
Right.
Right?
Oh, no way.
Keep appliances in working order. If they're in working order when you move in, make sure they're in working order while you're there. Abide by the cleanliness standards, let's be honest. Rental agreement. Keep a copy of your rental agreement. Keep 2 copies. Know where they're at. Because if you're ever called to court, that wasn't in my lease. And then the landlord says, yes it is. And you don't have a leg to stand on, right? Oh, didn't you read your lease? That's what they'll say. You know, I had somebody who said that one time, and I was with a client, a renter, and the judge said, well, didn't you read your lease? No, because I trusted him. Oh, well, I gotta go now, right? Because that's, like I said, make copies. Make sure there's no damage to your unit. Now, here's another thing, too. Go through your unit before you rent it with your landlord. If there's something wrong, write it down. Make sure they know. Take pictures. I rented a car. The car was beautiful. I got a car wreck, had to rent a car, right? Driving it around. Beautiful car. Second.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait your turn.
Pull over, talking to my husband, he said, what'd you do to the front of the car? I said, what are you talking about? And he said, it looks like it's been hit on this side. I hadn't had that car 4 hours. I go straight back out to the rental place. And I pulled up, I was like, hey, I got an issue. When we looked at this car, you didn't say anything about that, and there's something here. And I took a picture of it. And she said, we didn't say anything because we already knew it was there. And I said, well, that's good, but you didn't tell me you knew it was there. So my husband thinks I hit something, and I didn't, right? Honey, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Do they have escrow account?
Do you have escrow accounts?
Yeah, and they're in Indiana.
For renters? I'm not sure.
No.
No, they do not.
Okay,
They don't?
no,
Wow.
Indiana is
Okay.
like one of 3 or 2 states that do not have.
thank you. Okay, because I was
Isn't
not
that
sure
where you
about
put the
that.
money in, like a rent, like
Yeah,
with the
if they don't
landlord?
have
It's-
something fixed,
Like
yeah.
a slumlord?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
You're
It's
okay.
okay, no, it's okay, and thank you, because I did it.
You never heard of that?
Yeah,
Really? It's called escrow. They have it in Cincinnati, I think.
yeah.
But you can put your
Another
money in
one of your
escrow for like 3
responsibilities
months or
is
however long it takes.
Pay your rent on time, right? If you can't pay it on time, talk to your landlord and let them know. Because the thing is once they don't hear from you, you're trying to stiff them, right? Put it in writing. You know what? I talked to you on April 4th, 1836, and this is what I told you, right? They can't dispute it, okay? Evictions in Indiana. If a tenant fails to pay rent legally, the landlord may issue a 10-day notice to pay. If the tenant still does not pay, the landlord can start an eviction proceeding. This is an issue that I see in Indiana. Here's my comment. Okay. This is an issue that I've seen in Indiana, and like I said, I've dealt with a lot, all right? I know there are landlords in this city that start eviction day 2. They're not supposed to. They are not supposed to start the eviction until they give that 10-day notice. Yes, ma'am?
If rent is to be paid in advance, it is not legally required to give that 10-day notice. Because they know it's due on the road. Most landlords.
So
give
you're
grace
saying that,
period.
okay, because I need to understand. So you're saying that if you have a verbal agreement with them that they're going to pay the rent early?
No, not verbal. If it's in your lease that rent is due on the 1st, the 1st of February for the month of February,
Yes.
you are not required when rent is to be prepaid. So by the time the 5th comes or the 10th comes, they're already 10 days late. I give that notice as a courtesy,
Yeah.
and then of course the magistrate will give, usually 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Your 2 weeks to be scheduled in, 2 weeks and you're out. So they're getting their 30 days. But technically, and not everybody knows that, but technically
Okay.
they don't have to.
And this is,
So you
and
can
like I
do a
said,
10-day notice
this
and
is,
file the same day.
yeah. And this is something that, like I said, stuff I did not know.
But people know it's due on the 1st, so.
I understand. I'm just going by what,
I know.
The
I'm just
information
clarifying
I got.
something, which I learned recently. though.
thanks for pointing
Just
that out.
recently.
Well,
My-
like she said, that the landlord, well, she said she offers like her tenants like an extra 10-day notice.
5-day grace period, but I give them the 10-day notice.
Okay, well, some evictions have the 10-day notice to quit inside of the eviction notice. By the time the tenant gets the eviction, it's like 3 or 4 days into that 10-day notice to quit.
Exactly, and I think that's, and it says like, and it talks about like in emergency situations and things like that, but technically the way I read it, and when I pull up the code, you're gonna clarify for me? And when I pulled up the code, that is what it said, okay? I know a lot of landlords who will start that eviction process immediately, right? Immediately. And a lot of people get very upset because by the time they, like you said, they get the notice, they're like, your 30 days is up in like 5 days, right? Right. Now, if a violation occurs, the landlord may issue a notice to vacate. It does not have to specify a time frame. I did not know that. In cases of emergency, drug use, violence, things like that. In case of emergency, they do not have to specify a time frame. Okay? If the tenant fails to address the fact that they've gotten, that they're going to be late or that they got an eviction notice, the eviction proceedings will start. If a tenant stays in the property, now, we had to deal with this. A tenant stayed in the property after the lease expired. And you know what they said to me? Possession is 9/10 of the law. I said, are you for real? Right? And we literally had to go to court to get somebody out of our place that shouldn't have been there. I said there were squatters at that point. And did you know there's squatters' rights? I didn't know that, right? Until it happened to me. Okay? And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for both the tenant and the landlord. It was a nightmare process. But if a tenant breaks a lease, you're still liable for the rent, okay? Unless the landlord rents the property. Then you are no longer liable for that rent. And what I've seen here is like tenants before who have left properties, and then these properties sit empty. I'm just, why are all these empty properties? Because I know there are some landlords here that would leave the property empty just to get that money from the, from the tenant, or go ahead. Nope, I'm gonna go ahead.
Me?
Because you said,
Well, I don't leave it empty for that reason. Once they're out and once they're gone, I only collect till the end of that month. I don't care. I just
Yeah.
want them gone, especially if they're troubled tenants.
well, and
But-
you are actually not one of the ones that,
No, so far, I haven't heard any complaints. Somebody
Yeah.
said I haven't had any complaints with the city building, which is awesome.
yeah,
But what was I gonna say? Oh, I've left them empty because tenants have done so much damage that I'm just sick. And I walk away and I close the door. I
Yeah.
mean, breaking things on purpose.
yeah,
And I'm just sick and it's filled with roaches and they wouldn't let me come in and spray. I'm a licensed pest control applicator. I get the good stuff. We get rid of bugs.
yeah.
But if you're gonna come in and tear up my place, I've closed the door and cried.
I understand, I've done that.
Yeah,
I had to do that
it's
once.
terrible.
Yeah,
It's so hard to trust people because the nicest people, they don't stand by their word, sorry.
right,
Yeah, get in
right, I
right.
get it. I
Sorry.
get it. So let's run, because I think I'm running over my
But
time.
you're giving good information, Kelly, keep going.
Sorry. Okay, so let's talk about discrimination. Yeah, it's a big, I mean, honestly, that's a big one. It's a big one. Here's the thing, so if you have a lease, please make sure that, I'm just gonna say this again, just please make sure you read it all the way through so you're not missing any information. Okay, make sure you keep a copy. Now, landlords cannot increase the rent out of discrimination or retaliation. Okay, I know it's done. I know it's done. Okay, I also know for a fact that there have been landlords who have solicited for favors in exchange for rent. Okay, I would not speak that if I had not, if I didn't know for a fact it happened. I know, your point now, you know.
I can name two.
Yeah, right now, but we're not gonna name names. So, okay, keep that in mind too, all right? And if anyone ever does that, you have the right to report it. Tell somebody, honestly. Don't just go, well, don't have any other way to pay. It's against the law, you guys, you can't do it, it can't happen, all right? The Fair Housing Act actually outlaws discrimination in housing based on race, natural origin, religion, sex, familiar status, or disability. All right? Discrimination, it's against the law, and it's handled by the Indiana Civil Rights Commission. Indiana Civil Rights Commission. Now, we used to have an HRC here, Human Rights Commission, right? I was on city council when that commission was active. I was also on city council when that commission was snatched out from underneath us, right? And it was snatched out from underneath us because they said it's a duplication of services. Wrong answer. Because if you ever had to use the HRC, okay, it was because you needed it. And they would say, oh, but you can go to Indianapolis. No, not everybody can drive back and forth to Indianapolis. Not everybody has a phone that they can do all of these interviews, that has internet access to file. Not everybody has that.
They have a 1.5 or 6 star rating last I checked in Indianapolis.
It's not great, because you know what? They're handling everything, right? And I'm not gonna jump into this whole HRC thing because I'll tell you, I'll just get heated again. I just get mad. But it is against the law, refusing to rent or sell property because of discrimination. Falsely claiming that a unit is unavailable. Refusing to offer certain financial options. Offering different terms, conditions, or privileges. Refusal to make reasonable accommodations. Threatening or coercing a tenant out of exercising their rights. I've had people come to me who have been threatened and said, what am I going to do now? I've had tenants who have been locked out of their homes with their belongings inside. And their belongings then have been distributed to other people. I've seen it happen, right? I've seen it happen. And you have to know that your landlord, unless it's an emergency, entering your property, and I do this as a courtesy to everyone, 24-hour notice. Hey, I need to come into your apartment 4. Or I say, I need to come into the apartment 4. I'm gonna be there on this date at this time. You know, I don't just show up. I don't just use my key to get into the house because it's my house. No, they cannot do that. They cannot write you an eviction notice on a receipt, on the back of a napkin. And I've seen it happen right here in our community. It is against the law. They cannot do that. They cannot do that. There are plenty of landlords, I hate my guys here. They do. And I'm not wearing it as a badge of honor. It's just because when I work for my people, and I'm like, you can't do that. I literally wadded up a napkin one time. I was like, what is this? Right? Oh, I'll sue you too. Okay. All right. Do it. In the meantime, I'm going to pull up the Indiana Code, and we're going to have a little conversation about it. They cannot do that to you. Okay? And it happens. They can't just walk in the property. I had a woman complain one time. She was in the shower. I had no idea her landlord had come in the house. Yeah.
The girl who told me that was a minor.
Yeah. Somebody would have caught hands. That's all I'm saying.
When you talk about intruder, I'm sorry they were shot.
Right?
Yeah.
When you were talking about discrimination, so I did some digging online and it looked like maybe the Greenfield Examiner, it was an article in the newspaper in Indianapolis area. A tenant was able to sue a potential landlord for some type of AI system that the rental agency used to determine eligibility for tenancy. I think she won a $2.2 million lawsuit against this because the AI algorithms within the third-party system seem to have discriminating issues with them. So it's interesting.
So, you're right, we could go on and on and on about horror stories, right? But what we are here for this evening is to educate you. If you have a question, we're gonna have question and answer time. I've actually really run over my time, like, I'm a talker. So, I'm going to, I gave you a little bit, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to talk to me afterwards. Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question, Kelly.
Oh, hey,
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I have some friends from the Hispanic community, and they're trying to rent a place. So the landlord told them that they need to pay $65 for application fee, and then when they pay it, they didn't hear anything from him. So where you report stuff like that?
And that right there is why we need the Human Rights Commission. But honestly, that is something you can file a complaint. You can go.
This might be a good segue.
Where you
It
go?
is. It is. Actually, I'm gonna bring up Miss Manley here. I'm gonna let her talk. I'm gonna talk.
Let's give Kelly a round.
They didn't want to
What's that?
They didn't want to show them the house. They just paid. They had to pay the 65 $2,000 application
And I'm gonna
before
tell
he
you,
can show them the house.
Oh, no.
And then after that, I
yes,
will see, they tried to contact him or her because there was different emails and phone numbers, and then they were gone.
Then they're gonna say something to the effect of their credit wasn't accepted or their background check came back. And they could literally say anything over a telephone call and that's it.
yeah.
But they didn't say anything to them,
They didn't.
like nothing, like that was it. They didn't respond any phone calls or emails or text messages, absolutely nothing.
And I hate to say this, I really do, and it's gonna sound really bad, but they may have figured, well, they're just not gonna come, they're not gonna come back, I'm not worried about them.
Uh-huh.
They're not gonna come back.
We should talk more. These are the
Yes.
kinds of- these
Yeah,
are the
let's
kinds
talk
of
about
cases
that.
we're
It's
trying to
just
collect.
where you report it. I
Yes.
mean, I tried to
Yeah.
help them to where to report it, but I wasn't sure exactly where.
I'm gonna cover that in a second for you.
Okay.
And I have links for people, and anyone who wants a copy of this presentation, I'm happy to provide it.
And I'm gonna let her do her thing now, I have talked enough.
Thank you, Billy. Well, I'm so glad that we transitioned in that way, because I was thinking the exact same thing, that this is just a beautiful picture of how these two separate entities fit together. Like, I think that Kelly is a great resource for people who want to be educated before they end up in a legal situation where they have to go to court. I'm trying to show you a statewide website where you can connect with attorneys to ask your detailed legal issues. So that's why I'm really trying to get it up here for you. It's pretty important.
Does everybody have a phone with them or some kind of device?
Yeah, that would be great.
If you go to indianalegalhelp.org, that's indianalegalhelp.org, yes. indianalegalhelp.org.
Yes.
Indiana Legal Help. Yes. And if it pops up, it'll pop up on your screen, it'll say Indiana Legal Help, and it should be a yellow and dark blue badge. And underneath it, it'll say information and forms, divorce, rent and eviction, child custody, get legal help, child support. If you don't have a phone or access to the internet, if you go to the Wayne County Courthouse, there is a kiosk that is located on the second floor. So for those of you who have been to the courthouse, you go up the stairs, and then you'll take a left and a left.
If anyone has issues with internet access, these kiosks, you can print from them,
Yes.
you can access.
You can add everything that's on this website is available on that kiosk, including, if you guys click on it, it's going to pop up at the bottom here that says, click here to contact us, okay? So if you click on that, it pops up like a box. So on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to 2, I'm that bot, one of 4 bots. They are live people that work the kiosk Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. And you can get on the kiosk, you can type in your question, it will pass it along to one, I'm called a legal navigator. And so we cannot give legal advice because we are not attorneys, but we can provide you with resources and legal information that are already macroed in to the program. Also, if you don't want to do that, you can click, like if you click rented eviction, it'll pop up forms, and there's an eviction sealing form. So if you've had an eviction and you need to get that off your record so you can get a new place to rent and get a fresh start, those forms are on there. And if you go to the 3 lines on the left, on the right, I'm not sure if it's my left or right, and hit Get Legal Help on the website, you can type in your zip code or your county, and it will tell you what clinics are going on in your area. So if we go down to Wayne County, and scroll down,
organizations, and I'll also show you upcoming events. So for upcoming events, there's a statewide eviction legal aid clinic, which those statewide clinics help you fill out the paperwork that you may need to fill out or explain the paperwork that you've been served. And those are usually done by attorneys, so you can ask legal questions. There's another website called Indiana Free Legal Answers. The Indiana Free Legal Answers website, you can go in there and ask any kind of legal question, not just housing, any legal question, and an attorney, in their spare time, they go in and they answer those questions for you. Yes, ma'am.
Does it cost?
Everything is free.
So it's free?
Everything is free. Everything is free. It is user-friendly, and again, you can
And
just...
you can report it directly to us if one of them isn't working, we have somebody to come out.
Yes.
So it's really a good resource to have because unless things have changed recently, I don't think our Wayne County Clerk's Office has eviction-related forms ready for people. Like a lot of forms, they will have something for people to sort of fill in the blank, but this is, as far as I know, the only place you can get that.
Everything that is on this website has been approved by the Supreme Court. The Coalition for Court
Made by the
Access.
Indiana Bar Association's coalition.
Yes, they designed this, this is what they wanted. There are kiosks all over the state. They're in libraries, they're in courthouses, community centers, wherever that particular location found the need, that is where they put the kiosks. And the people that work this, they know how to get the paper to work.
Yeah, and we have a chat function for if you're confused with people who work them. You can get information, yeah.
So, does anybody have any questions about this service?
I have a quick question. When you refer to the Supreme Court, do you mean the Indiana Supreme Court?
Yes. So, they wanted the Coalition for Court Access created to make pro bono service more readily available to the everyday person and make forms that are easy to understand. I will tell you that Wayne County, the clerks like to use their own forms. So if they've used a form since 1938, that's the form that they're going to give you and tell you that that's the form that you have to use. But you are more than welcome to go to the kiosk and fill those out and pick up. Yes, Kelly?
I didn't hear, I heard just a little bit before, but you said if you do have an eviction on your record, that you can go and appeal that, or what are you can appeal it?
Hide it from the
So
public
it's not
record.
an appeal, they have eviction sealing clinics. So you can get your eviction sealed, and no one will be able to see it, and then that will open you up to new opportunities to become a renter again.
What are the requirements, like, for example, for a tenant to be eligible for expungement from your eviction?
Well, I personally don't know because I don't run those clinics. I've never ran one, but they
You want to talk to an attorney about it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Neither one of
So
us
the thing I'm trying to get here is that in addition to these self-help resources, we have clinics twice a month that you can sign up for. You can get a spot so you're sure that you'll speak to someone. You can speak to an attorney. They're,
They offer them
probably.
through Zoom too, right?
They do have the
Yes,
qualifications on the website, if you click on that form.
They have-
The qualifications for
Sure,
that?
yes, so
If you
actually, yes,
click on
that's a
that
very
form,
good
it
point.
says there's
So the
qualifications.
attorneys at the Bar Association have information like that built into the forms.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of,
yeah.
If you look here, so there's the eviction sealing form.
One thing I wanted to emphasize as well is, I read a study and about 65 to 70% of evictions that folks experience can be expunged and removed from your record. And I mean, having an eviction on your record can do a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
About 65 to 70%, this is ballpark.
And on that point, one of the legislative updates I wanted to provide is that currently moving, I can't recall if it's in the House or the Senate, but it's gotten pretty far along in the legislative process. There's a bill to automatically, the courts will issue an eviction seal. The court will determine if the person is eligible for the sealing and issue it. It hasn't passed yet, but that's something where if the tenant group is wanting to support legislation, I feel like that would be wise.
What about court watching? Do you know anything about that or what's going on in Indy with the like Housing Justice Task Force or any other coalitions within the state that might be implementing something like that in Marion County?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I really have not looked into that, the activism around that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I think Marion County has like 9 different. What are the? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I do want to say real quick about the website, the kiosk. If you want to use the chatbot service, at this time, only housing questions can be addressed. We can't do anything for family law, any other the other options, because the grant that supplied those kiosks that got this program going at this time is still only for housing questions, not for regular law questions, but you can still use the forms and use Indiana Free Legal Answers to get some of those questions answered. I believe after June, there is a possibility that it will get opened up to other topics and we'll be able to supply information for that. But for right now, I just don't want anybody to use the chat pod for a question and then it not be a housing question and get frustrated.
Is the ARP fund still funding that?
IHCDA.
IHCDA, yeah. IHCDA.
Federal funding through that.
Yes. I think that they were funding the wonderful. Yeah, so I don't know about the finances behind it, but I do know that I work for the IHCDA grant. And that's what through Pro Bono Indiana and the Indiana Bar Foundation. They received the funds and then we've used them. I know that we've also talked about the possibility of a justice bus. That would basically, the Bar Foundation and Pro Bono Indiana are looking into getting buses to go around to do like mobile clinics for. Have you heard of the Housing Justice Task Force in Indianapolis?
No, I'm not familiar with anything in Indianapolis, like well, we don't cover that. Our region is in Indianapolis, so we're more far east than Indy.
They're doing, in Marion County right now, I think it's called the Methodist MarionStreet.org, and you can navigate there. They've actually got a group of people that are getting together that are court watching in 9 different Marion County courts right now and entering data and submitting to the state. And so they're getting ready to hold like this thing, I think it's at the end of March sometime. I can email you guys the date. But they're having like a get together of kind of like different area, like different people around the state to come together and talk about the same issues that we already have.
Got another question in the back here. I don't know if you want to ask.
Oh, yeah, I can, it's a little late, but I'll still ask it. You're talking about people that get on the kiosk, fill out forms, and get their evictions expunged, per se, or sealed, per se. Okay, then how does that make a landlord feel when they see that, when somebody's got a strong history of 10 years of evictions?
So I would look into who qualifies. I would look into those standards, and it's not just a free-for-all.
Yeah, it says that they have to have all their judgments paid off, and it's decided on a
I just
judge.
was a little,
I would encourage you to look
landlord's got the only.
IndianaLegalHelp.org is for tenants and landlords. It's not just for tenants. It's law as it works and applies for everyone. So, yeah.
You were just hoping for out. Does anybody else have any other questions for Morgan, Gus, or?
Thank you.
I have a question kind of more on the legal side. You might be able to talk a little bit on it, maybe also Kelly. So I've heard situations before where like sometimes landlords will have their tenants like sign rental like leases, right? But in the lease agreement, there's like things that don't hold up to state or federal law. So I'd like to know like if it doesn't, if that is the case, you know, like would you be able to like help people like say, hey, like
That would be a great
I know you
clinic,
signed
that would be a
that's
great
not
clinic
legal,
topic.
you know?
If you, so I would like to, unfortunately, this is still not really, oh no, it kind of is, but I can't see what I'm doing though.
I know.
Well, I guess I could look up here. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, let me show you guys where you can go. This is awkward.
We can put it on the table.
Okay, here.
What's the website?
It's indianalegalhelp.org, so I'm trying to show them where the clinics are there.
So that flyer there, if you want to take the flyer, that does have the Indiana Legal Help website, the very first paragraph. So you can direct it from there. I mean, I'm sorry, guys.
And just to kind of go back over what she said again, we cannot answer legal questions on the kiosk.
But we can get you connected to
Right,
people who
but we
can.
can send
Yeah.
you, it's a resource to get you in contact with someone who can, or get you to a clinic in your area, whether it's virtual or in person, that a lawyer can give you advice.
Now, I'm wondering, so the Fair Housing Act itself, you know, it states that landlords cannot discriminate against anybody, but also it states that landlords can't provide unsafe, inadequate housing. So I'm wondering, you know, who's holding the landlords accountable here locally as far as like code enforcement or health department? Like you would think if code enforcement was to drive past a particular building and see that it's all boarded up and there's families living inside, that might pose some type of hazard for the families inside if something was to happen. So that's been a concern in the community. So I don't know what we could do to maybe get together and have code enforcement.
I know. Actually, the biggest issue that we have in our community is that people do not make a report, okay? First, your very first step is if there is something that is not up to code or something that is in where you're living, write it down. Like I said, make sure you document everything, turn it into your landlord. If something's not working or it's not safe, this, that, and the other, then they have like a 2-week window to respond, right? Some people don't. I'm just gonna say
Where can
that.
somebody go to navigate to file, like find the form to file a complaint?
And that's exactly what I'm telling you. So you can actually, you can write something down yourself and present it to your landlord.
Okay.
But, what's that?
Is it fear that prevent people from reporting?
Oh, yes.
Retaliation.
Fear of retaliation, because this is, I know there are landlords in here who are gonna disagree, but this is true. There are landlords who have a list, and if they evict someone or whatever, they'll pass that name on to other people, and it's like a blackball list. Like then you have problems. So the cycle is never broken. However, as a renter, as a tenant, you do have the right to address it with your landlord, okay? You make that call to code enforcement. Yes, you'll have to fill out forms, this, that, and the other. You know, that's fine. Then they have to do their job.
I wonder if any landlords locally here, if they're using any like third-party systems to vet their tenants, like as far as like an algorithm system, like
I will be
SafePoint.
honest with you, I don't know. I vet my tenants by myself.
Right.
So I don't go to a third party or anything like that. But I'm just saying, as far as if it's you and you're being affected, make sure you follow those steps. Because if you're following the steps, you can't, then right is on your side if you're following those steps. And the thing is if you're not satisfied once you go through those first 2 steps. Talk to the landlord, document it, go to code enforcement, document it. You're not satisfied, go to your local, your local politicians, your county politicians, whatever, file with there. Make sure you document it.
And then you can also then get information from the landlord and review and see if what you've been given is accurate.
Absolutely.
That's
And so and unfortunately, we do have a lot of properties that are in our community that aren't up to code. And, and plus they have, people who are living in them who aren't maybe following the safety standards or whatever. And so then we have, there's always a chance that you have an issue, with, somebody getting broken into, or, like you said, there was a fire that was, earlier this week, things like that. But the fact of the matter is, Lisa, you said, are people afraid? Yes. Yes. People are afraid to talk, to say anything to anyone because they don't want to rock the boat. Nobody wants to rock the boat and then be put out. Because their biggest fear is retaliation, okay? And whether or not we think it's true, nobody wants to rock the boat and be put out. Especially if they've already had issues at other places, they don't want to be put out.
Because that actually happened to me.
I'm sorry, y'all
Yeah.
too.
There's a lady here.
You had your hand up for
Yeah.
a long time. I
Yes,
just wanna make
sorry, it has kind
Sorry.
of do on
Yeah.
topic with this. First off, Kelly, I wanted to say that, when you said information is power, knowledge is power, that is so key point, because I've dealt with so many so many things in my life where I didn't know how to do something, and it just gave me so much anxiety, so much fear, and I just felt like there was nobody on my side because I didn't know how to do the things, and I felt like there wasn't any resources out here, and I was like, where do I need to go, and it's just I didn't know how to do the things I needed to do. But my friend did not do the things I felt the right way, and I just recently, this is kind of just speaking for maybe somebody that could do maybe a better thing, but they rented off of a slumlord for about a year and a half because they had a house fire a year and a half ago, and they were trying to find a place, but the rental market in Richmond, if you have a good landlord, is it's real hard to get into a good landlord in Richmond. The people want to keep their landlords, right? It's one of those things. You have a good landlord, they take care of you, you take care of them. It's just one of those things. It's real hard to get into a good it's hard to get into a good building. So they looked at a place, and one of the first places they looked at was $1,200 a month, and it literally had dog shit and black mold and everything in it. And we were like, no, we can't do this with their kids. And then so we ended up going with another famous landlord here. It was what it was, because it was just after 2 months in a house, hotel, they had 6 kids and needed to get into housing. And it's but eventually a raccoon started to come down into their house. And they had made several calls to this property management, and several calls. And so where would you report that to? Would it be the code enforcement?
I'm gonna tell you right now, if they've talked to the landlord.
They had made several calls. I'm sure that it was on their phone record. Well, eventually they just said, fuck it, you're not sorry. If you're not gonna take care of this, I've made several, and they would call and they say, you're not taking care of the raccoon issue.
Yes.
I'm not taking care of you.
Yes.
And I feel like that was where they made their first mistake, because you gotta.
I'm telling you right now, everybody reaches their limit. Okay?
Right.
But they made that first step to talk to the landlord. They have not had any communication. Take it to the code enforcement.
Okay.
Take it to code enforcement right away. If you've made attempts and you've documented that you've made attempts to get a hold of the landlord, and believe it or not, I've heard about this story that you're talking about. Not gonna lie. Go to code enforcement.
Well,
this is the situation. We need to file a report.
So anyways, they ended up going to court just recently because I got evicted for not paying. and they went to court and they ended up losing, so they owe this property manager over $2,000 now. And I was in the house and like babysitting one of the youngest kids because they were, you know, and like there was like a literal mouse that just came up to me and I was like, oh my God, you have mice in your house. And my friend was like, I know. And I was like, when it gets to the point where mice are, like I live in the country, okay? When it gets to the point where mice are coming up to you, there is a problem.
I think the health department is what deals with the vermin part, is for your, like the
But, you know, it's
raccoon.
we've gotten to the point where now the judgment has settled. Is
That's
there anything past this point?
Is there anything past that point?
First of all, I want to ask is, did your friend at any point in time over this year-long escapade seek legal assistance?
Probably not.
There is free legal help
Planning would have
every
been
month
wonderful for
here.
that situation.
Okay.
There is a, March 6th is my next one. Hi, everybody, I'm
Yeah,
March 6th, hi, I'm Felicia Carter.
Thank you,
I
Felicia.
I know quite a few of you, some of you I don't. So once a month, every first Thursday of every month, just about, I hold a free legal clinic for all civil legal needs in this very room. I usually have 5 to 8 attorneys. They come in, they volunteer 2 hours of time, it's first come, first served. Morrison Reeves and we have been partnering for 3 years doing this. So it is an absolutely free service. Grants and funding is however possible. So yeah, feel free to come in and talk to an attorney. And there are so many things. We are not with Pro Bono Indiana, but we work with Pro Bono Indiana. Like I know these people, so they are here to help. You can like go to any of the clinics online that they have resources for. They have the kiosk, they have resources. You can go in there and that kiosk and print up your paperwork for a criminal expungement if you need it. There are so many things you can do on the kiosk, and hardly anybody uses it in the courthouse. I was just up there the other day. So definitely
This is one of the lowest used counties, I think.
Yeah,
And which is where just, if you guys know people who are looking for help with that, direct them to Indiana.
It is 100% free to go in there.
Who placed it?
PBI.
Is there, I feel like I
Oh, you mean who shows the location?
I think
That was the courthouse.
Yeah, the judges put in for it. I put in for it as well as put outside of my office.
So the judges put in for it and they got it, but I believe the clerk's office is the one that put it in the bar. So you guys know that you can't see.
So unfortunately, instead of being right in the clerk's office, you have to take a little tour to a far corner.
Yeah, you can't really look and see it there.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, what I wanted to tell you is I have a flyer that I brought with me. We have FAQs that we printed up for our housing clinics. And there's flyers over there, my cards are over there. My office is here in the city building. You can always give me a holler and I can help you direct you to these things, okay? If you have any questions, I'll be around for it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Felicia.
The other thing I was going to do was a rundown of pending legislation. The 3 topics that I thought would be most relevant was one I already mentioned, which was automatic expungement ceiling, and that's still moving through the House and the Senate. And then we also have, they're considering limiting the time that tenants have to retrieve their belongings from 90 days to 30 days. That again has not passed yet. And then a lot of the legislation, if it does end up passed, July 1st is a pretty common date that it's effective. But the Indiana.gov website, I think it's IAGA.ia.gov, the General Assembly, IGA, they have an excellent setup to track legislation at every point as it moves through committees, through the Senate, and through the House. And you can pull up PDFs and see things that have been amended and added on. You can see what the bill looked like on this day, what it looked like later. You can see who added the amendments. So I think it's an excellent source for political education about the people who are making laws in this state. Yeah. And I would love to do like a, more detailed rundown of it. So.
Yeah, and if you, one thing for folks that put their names down and emails, we can follow up with some more of the links and the details and send that out to everybody here, if that's okay with you. Okay, that's one way that we can keep in touch with each other. I want to be respectful of folks' time here, and we're supposed to go till 7:30. And so I wanted to give, here's my proposal here. I want to bring Bob Hunter up here, who's going to give you a little bit of a teaser for what's up next in terms of this like series, right? I'm also, just to kind of, I'm going to take a little point here as well, that one of the other things, in addition to me being involved with the Richmond Housing and Housing and Human Rights Coalition, I'm a state coordinator for a group that's called the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. Now, listen, this issue around Medicaid in particular and healthcare in general is a hot mess in this country, right? Okay, yes. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's some things that are looming right now that could make things even worse, okay? I'm really proud of our folks here in Richmond. We came and we met up. We've met up with Senator Young's staff. We've met up with Representative Shreve's staff just this past week. We've been really trying to sort of put a face, actually, on what will be the impact, right? We want a better system. We don't want waste. But we need folks to see who are in power making these decisions what will be the impact, because it's going to be a death sentence to people. And so I just want to lift up some of our folks, particularly Pat, Meg, Erica, Jimmy. It was very powerful. Aiden was in there. It was great to connect with those who are making these decisions so that they know this cuts across political lines, it cuts across geography. Millions of Hoosiers, millions of people in this country are going to be impacted. So I'm going to hand it over. If you want to talk more about that, talk with me. And also, I want to say too, it's just like afterwards, if there was somebody you wanted to follow up with and talk a little bit more with, let's do that fellowship. It's really great having y'all here. So good.
I'm Bob Hunter. I was chair of the Human Rights Commission for 15 years. I was on the commission for 17. It was defunded. The one thing I want to correct is, and make sure you understand is, that the human rights laws in this city were never rescinded. They were never rescinded. They are still on the books. What is happening is that the city council has refused to appoint people to the Human Rights Commission since 2010.
Wow.
So they are disobeying the city laws. And so what we need is for people who have discrimination issues or believe you have discrimination issues to come see me, because it's time to make the city obey its own law. Something very terrible about what this city really cares about us and discrimination. So any rate, I want you to, so that's my point. We're going to get together. So if any of you have that issue, and we're going to have some other issues, some other workshops to deal more in depth with this. But in the meantime, if you have an issue, if you believe you've been discriminated against, come see me and we'll get you together with some lawyers. We're going to go forward with that. Thank you.
Do you have cards?
Let me give you my email.
Okay.
huntebo@gmail.com. huntebo@gmail.com. There's no R in there. Some people want to fill out the Hunter part of that. There's no R. huntebo@gmail.com. Thanks.
Thank you. We're just going to close it out here, maybe with a song, and then just grab some food and talk with each other, talk with your neighbor. So we're going to do this one. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom after a while. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Go home to my Lord and be free. You know what? when we stand together, we stand together. So go on. Freedom.